had a loss in the family.
Oh, ouch. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She lost her grandmother last night, so was not in the frame of mind to do a show.
No, I would not think she would be.
But she wanted me to tell you how much she is loving the new season of Aquilo. She's all caught up from the other night.
That's a lot of Amy's doing. I feel that she's, especially this season, she's elevating the script a lot.
I thought you were going to be rid of, from the way she was talking at the end of last season, the podcaster guy, because she hates doing his voice. But it was like, okay, but now she can use the effect on it because they're on the phone. Is that easier on her voice?
I don't know, but the moment she told me she hated doing him, I knew I was gonna bring him back. I'm not a good friend.
Oh, hi Amy. She's in the chat.
Oh, do I need to refresh Twitch because I don't see
We
it?
just found out a couple hours ago
Oh,
that
there
it
you
wasn't
go.
coming, and I was like, should I invite Amy to be on? I was like, you know, we can do another Aquilo show. We've been talking about doing that for a while, and this is to push you into self-promoting, and you can't lean on her.
I mean, I don't want to exclusively lean on her either for self-promotion. She's I think she's got a bit the same problem as I do, where promoting herself is not easy, but promoting others. This is why Aquilo should work better for promotion, but we're not doing as good at it as I think we should.
You guys have built quite an audience. It's impressive.
I literally do not know how many people listen to the show. Amy
well, you
has
hit that
access to
huge
those
subscriber
numbers.
number last season, right? Like
I'm sorry, what?
100,000 and more or something.
I think we get about an average of 1,000 downloads per episode, but I haven't checked the numbers in quite a while. But usually Amy would give me the numbers. But now we've changed hosting, so I guess I could go check myself. It's been lazy and afraid.
I never look at the numbers. I just don't. I did a couple times at the beginning, and then I had good advice from other people that do this. Just don't look.
The thing that I found is a lot of the professionals that say don't look at the numbers totally look at the numbers.
Yeah, then they're talking about it, and I'm like, you said don't.
Or they're in the position to not look at the numbers.
That's the difference, right? Like, here's the thing: like, if you're a podcaster and you're making a certain, like, how to say, you're not making your living off of the actual numbers, but you're making your living off of Patreons. Like, you don't need to look at the Patreon numbers; you get a check. So if that check is satisfactory, you don't need to look at the rest of the numbers because the important number is the one that's on the on the check. So it's easy to say, oh, don't look at the numbers. They don't mean anything. Well, they don't mean anything to you, but if you're looking at growth as something that you want to accomplish with your podcast, then you have to look at the numbers. You just also need to know how to properly interpret them. Sorry, marketing. My marketing's coming through.
It happens.
Yeah, and Amy's got it right. Like, you don't let the numbers dissuade you from anything. Like, you don't let the numbers sort of guide. Well,
what I was
let
told
the numbers
is the
guide
can
what
tell.
you do with your content. You don't let them dictate what you do with your content.
Right, and I was told the audience can tell, like, why you're doing it. If you're doing it for the numbers, it becomes obvious, and you try to go back and forth, like, oh, that one didn't do as well. I'm gonna go back to an old formula, and you don't want to trap yourself into that, like you said, but you also just want to keep your head about you and do it because you love it, because people can tell you love it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the whole thing is what I find very disingenuous in the podcasting industry in general is that there's a lack of nuance. Like it's all everybody wants to have that one sentence solution. It's like don't look at the numbers. Do only like be raw, be authentic, be this, be that. When it's actually like dozens upon dozens of different things on top of one another. So it's like yes, look at the numbers, but look at them in this direction. Be authentic, but while still being professional. Be like there's always all these conditions, and I find I get very frustrated because I work in marketing, because I've been studying podcasting for like 15 years, that I find very frustrating that usually the very accomplished people try to take a very reductive approach to podcasting. And I think the biggest difference to make is, first of all, are you podcasting for fun or are you podcasting because you want to make something out of it? Because those are going to be two different approaches too. It's the same conversation I have about cleaning products with my bosses at my job. So. I'm trying to convince them because right now we're trying to launch a new chain of retail products, and I'm trying to convince them. Yeah, we need to look at what the customers want. It's like but we're looking at what the competition is doing. We will look at that, but we need to look at other things too. It's just everybody's just always looking for the easy answer. And Amy's right. Like there's a lot of luck to it too.
Yeah.
There's three elements to success. It's hard work, luck, and networking. Anyways, but this is a completely different rant, and I'm stopping you guys from starting the show.
Okay, do you have the notes open, JF? Did you ever go look at them?
I went to look at them. I was trying to open them again, and I'm. Oh no! Wait. Okay, I know what's I went wrong. Sorry, I was
You
looking
didn't write your
for the
intro,
link.
so you're gonna be stuck with whatever I say.
That's fine. It's definitely gonna be better than what I'm doing. I would have done.
My political
So
schooling taught
here's
me
what I
to
did for
let
the
people
notes.
write their own intro.
Oh no, my intros are terrible. So what I did for the notes is that I went to see them. I looked at them. It was all cool. And then when I was trying to open them before the show, I was looking for the link in our Facebook convo when they're actually in my inbox. So there we go.
Gotcha.
I am a pro. I am so good at this.
So you're good level. I will just have to speak up. One of the reasons I use the room instead of a call, we used to always do our shows this way, like a Discord call, is when I have us in a room, I can individually adjust everyone's volume, which is pretty spiffy.
Yes.
Ray, can you give me a test?
Sure. This is me speaking. Test, test, test.
Okay.
So
You're
good
fine.
at this.
I'm just going to be a little low. Well, actually, I can fix that and loop back. Boop, boop. Or I have a turny knob on my Yeti. I'll just do it manually like a cretin. There. 1, 2. 1. A little higher. 1. Test 1. Okay. I'm closer to you guys now. Such pros. Everybody ready?
We're all pros today. Yep.
We got perspective, we got the cool, we got the muscle, and you know we effing rule. We are the Geek Grills, we are the Geek Grills, alright. We got the know-how, we got control, we got the knowledge, and we tell you how it rolls. We are the Geek Grills, we are the Geek Grills, alright. We are the Geek Grills, we are the Geek Grills, tonight. Hell yeah.
Hello and welcome to episode 209 of Geek Grills. The Geek Grills podcast is supported primarily by our patrons, so please visit today at patreon.com/grills. I'm September, also known as 9 of 12, and I am joined by my co-host Ray.
Hello.
And by J-F Dubeau.
Hi. Hey, I have a confession to make. I usually catch your show a little bit after the intro, and I never knew you guys had a Mike TV intro song.
It hasn't been around that long. I commissioned it, well, like a year
Last
ago,
year?
but it took 'em a while to get it to me. So we've been using it, I don't know, maybe 6 months.
It's so good. I love Mike TV. He's just such a good guy.
I do too. I love him, and I'm looking forward to adding more. He recently, right before he had the accident, he sent me some little bumpers and music without the lyrics and things for me to use in the show, and I'll get around to all that. But
Very
yes, we
cool.
love Mike TV. Linda can't make it tonight. She had a death in the family, so wasn't quite up to it. But we do have our very special guest, J-F Dubeau, author of God in the Shed, The Life Engineered, and he has a new book we're going to talk about. That'll be our main topic. In the meantime, what have you been up to this geeky week? How about you, Ray?
Yeah, no, I have fallen hard into the Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines game from like 2003, and it has consumed me in all ways, and I think I'm almost done. I'm currently at a point where I have to avoid being murdered by a werewolf for 5 minutes, so that's been fun. Uh, I was feeling like a pretty hefty badass throughout the game. I had maxed out Fortitude 5, which basically gives you extra soak. I felt like a tank. And yeah, no, this werewolf just boom.
Chomp.
Yeah, 30 seconds in, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Werewolves are the pinnacle in the world of darkness. Yeah, I just have to run away, and it's weird. We also started the first episode of Squid Game on Netflix, and it's one episode, but each episode's like an hour long, so I haven't really seen anything else yet. It's very battle royale kind of thing. Guy plays a game, the game is deadly. I don't think that's a spoiler for anything. That's the premise of the series. So, and then we gotta figure out how it's all gonna work out. So,
I'm curious about that. I almost started it today, but I spotted Midnight Mass, which
I
yeah.
started that.
a friend of mine is in. Well, I shouldn't say
Oh,
a friend of
what?
mine.
Oh.
Like years ago on the Obama campaign, my friend Jennifer brought her two little daughters, and they worked really hard on the campaign with us and everything. And I've known them ever since and watched them grow up. And Anara, she's playing the girl that's in the wheelchair.
Oh wow, 'cause
She's
she's
from
knocking
Statesville
it
here.
out of the park. In the I think it's the second episode or third episode, she has this monologue and she absolutely kills it.
Oh, cool. I look forward to it. Her and her sister are incredibly talented in several different mediums, so it's exciting to see. It came up on the Netflix recommended, and I was like, Rob, look, it's Anara.
That's so cool. Yeah,
It's
Scott had
very cool.
started watching that one, but uh, yeah, there was some stuff that happens like in the first two episodes. He's like, you might not want to watch some of this. I'm like, okay, I'll hold on.
I know what he's talking about, and it is rough.
Yeah.
All I know is it starts so slow. We're almost all the way through the first episode, and Rob looked at me. He's like, I mean, I know they're doing character development, but is this supposed to be creepy or something? 'Cause all there was is that cat thing so far. I'm like, it's okay. I'm sure it'll get there.
Oh, he look. This is Mike Flanagan. He's establishing the tedium of what it is to live on that island, and he does a really good job.
Well, Rob grew up on an island, so he was already there.
Oh.
So, what is up with me? I made it through quarantine. Yay! Today was the day that the doctor had given my son that he could return to work. He's not scheduled to return until Wednesday, but I felt like I could go out freely in the world. I went to the chiropractor because that's my exciting life. I went to the grocery store and I ran into a friend of mine at Aldi, and he and I were the only customers in the whole store that were masked. I'm like, imagine.
Oh.
Wow.
This is the culture I live in. I got a huge pumpkin. This pumpkin is gigundous and perfectly shaped and a big gnarly stem on it, and it was $3.99.
Nice.
But it's outside on the table because it is like too big for anywhere in my house. I've been playing Sable. It's on Game Pass. The art style is gorgeous. It's almost kind of sketchwork, and the time of day like saturates and desaturates colors. It's all set in a desert, but it seems some kind of post-apocalyptic, like a lot of open world. You're wandering around, but you're finding parts of spaceships and scavenging them, and you have to build your hover bike, and you're going on your gliding. It's like a coming of age quest. So it was really pretty, and I gave it a try, and I'm into it a ways, and I haven't given up yet, which is good, because it's a lot of puzzles, which I really like. But when the puzzles are having to leap from place to place and platformy stuff, I get easily frustrated because I'm bad at that. So I haven't quit yet. But I recommend it so far. It's a great story, and the writing is really, really good. Very few typos, which for a game, you know.
The art looks gorgeous too.
Oh, yeah. That really caught my eye. I watched a bunch of trailers, and I installed that one, and Ray, you would boyfriend something.
Oh, is it the weapon one?
Yes, where you're dating your
Yes.
weapon.
Yes,
It's
that's
a
actually been on my
fighting
wish
game, but
list
also
for
a
while.
dating sim.
Yeah, I remember when they did the Kickstarter for that. I'm like, oh gosh, we don't have the money, but I really want this.
Well, it's on Game Pass, and I downloaded it. I watched the trailer, and it was so cheesy and like had all that magical girl type stuff in it. I was like, all right, this is funny. I'm gonna check it out. The other
It's on
thing
my
we had
Steam list now too.
Hmm?
It's on I think you can get it on Steam as well, because I think I added it to my wish
Cool.
list.
Yeah, I think Sable's on Steam too, because it's so new, like just came out a few days ago, that when I did need to try and find a cheat to figure out something, like they don't exist. There was one article, and it was something about Steam, so it must be on Steam.
Ah, yes. I
And
know
the other
those
thing we
people.
did is I found myself in the strange position this weekend of we couldn't go out because my son was, COVID positive, and we were just isolating like good humans. And we did a date night in. And that's something that during the pandemic, when it was in full force last time, we did a lot of. Like, we started painting and, making things together. And we picked up some pottery at a nearby place where you paint it yourself, and then you can just drop it off and they'll fire it. And we got spooky Halloween stuff. And we listened to Ake Willow. We had 2 episodes to listen to in the new season, and did our little date night in. I mixed some fancy drinks, and Rob had some beer that the local brewery was kind enough to help get us touchless purchase for, and had that date night in. And my friends are like, man, you guys are killing it with this stuff. And it's like, I think I missed the pandemic being really bad, because we kind of, when we could go to the brewery, we stopped doing this. I really like it.
Maybe in the long run, like this gives us the opportunity to find a good balance between the going out and the staying in.
Yeah, I'm hoping. So, Jeff, what have you been up to?
Oh boy, mostly work, to be honest. But also I've been trying to paint a lot of my tiny little toy soldiers, which is one of my meditation things that I do. The
like
thing is, like,
Warhammer
my
minis?
lifestyle is very much just go to work during the day, and then like during the weekend and evenings I will either dissociate and watch streams while eating snacks, and not even good streams, like I'm just watching Overwatch streams, like what is ostensibly a dying game, and I don't know, it just so predictable that it's relaxing to me. Or I'll be painting toy soldiers and models, or writing. And recently, I just finished prepping a pitch that Amy and I will be doing for a project, and I've been I'm a little bit ahead on Aquilo, so now I've been just reviewing my notes for the rest of the season, so that starting tomorrow night, I'll just be writing Aquilo for next month or so. So that's it. That's that's my life.
Well, that's particularly nerdy and fun.
I enjoy it. I don't know that it would be for everyone because it's so very social, diet social. Like I don't interact with a lot of people. I talk to two people at work once a week, and that's quite enough for me.
Are they the miniatures like Warhammer miniatures?
Yeah, I'm a pretty big Warhammer 40K. I wouldn't say player, but painter. So I once a year I participate in a competition in a convention called Adepticon. They have skipped the last 2 years because of the pandemic, and I have this huge project that I'm doing with my team, which includes my brother, one of my friends, and Amy this year. And we've been waiting 3 years to get this going. I also co-host with Amy and my friend Matt Alex. We co-host 40K Radio, which is a really old podcast about the Warhammer 40K universe that we took over. And so I'm really deep into it. Like Games Workshop knows enough who we are to send us like little miniatures once in a while. So it's one of my meditation things to just sit down and paint little monsters and stuff.
Oh, that's
Well, that's
awesome.
super cool. I've got some friends who have like gotten into Warhammer lately and have started doing their miniatures, and they're
Those
just so
poor
excited about it. It's
bastards.
awesome.
It's such a fun hobby, and we're really in a golden age of it. Games Workshop used to be extremely tight-lipped, not very good at doing the community thing, and about 5 years ago they changed their attitude completely. And now they're really involved. They listen to people, everything, and because they listen and interact with with their customer base, like they're getting a lot of feedback. They're applying that feedback. They're actually listening, not just pretending. So their product is improving, which means makes the community more active and more excited. Just like this feedback loop of really cool things. It's become kind of a gag on the podcast for us to make fun of people who complain about Games Workshop, because even though they're far from being perfect, they are still like a big quote unquote monolithic company. But it's becoming so hard to find things to complain about, because every time there is a problem, they kind of address it, or they work around it. So it's anyways. So right now, if
Not
you're
enough to
getting
bitch
into
about.
that hobby, it's the perfect time.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
you're gonna
awesome.
have to put a link in the notes so I can put it in our show notes. I'm curious. I'd never heard of that podcast. I learned something new today, and I definitely know people who'd be into that.
Cool, because we've only just recently got our own feed, because we used to be part of a mega feed, which was not ideal.
I can understand that. As much as I love being part of some communities, glad we have our own feed for sure. So let's talk about J.F. Dubeau's new book. It's called Song of the Sandman, and my understanding it is the sequel to The God in the Shed, which I
Yes.
freaking loved.
It is, and it's so bizarre because I finished writing Song of the Sandman maybe 3.5 years ago, and it's been in sort of editing hell for a while, and I haven't touched it. Like, it's been ready to publish for about a year, maybe 18 months, but because of the pandemic, the release date kept being pushed back. So I have a lot of very strange distance to the book right now. It's been a while since I've touched it, and now like the release kind of snuck up on me, and I have to talk about this book that I'm only sort of barely kind of getting back into, and now because I planned The God in the Shed and Song of the Sandman as like parts of a trilogy. Now I'm really starting to get excited about the idea of writing that third book too.
Well, I guess it's good it took that long, because it took me almost that long to get my husband to read God in the Shed. And then
Is it that not a big reader or not a big horror fan?
um
Or does
he
he
loves
hate me?
horror and he loves to read. He just I think it's, I don't know.
It's me.
It's a weird husband wife thing. Like, I said it's cool, so yeah, he'll get to it. Like, he was reading the same H.P. Lovecraft compendium for the third time in the last 2 years. And I was like, hey, how about you pick up God in the Shed? It's not even long. And then he really, really liked it. So it's really good timing for the sequel for him.
It's gonna suck because people are gonna have to wait a while for the third book because I need to actually write, and it's the end of a trilogy, and I am extremely paranoid about sticking the landing on these things. Like, I go through the same crisis of anxiety at the end of every Aquilo season, where I'm just petrified I will not tie up the loose ends correctly.
Now, this one came out it was released in French first.
Yes, which was kind of like it's another sort of artifact of the pandemic. Is at the beginning of the pandemic, Bragelonne, which is a French from France publishing company, picked up the rights to A God in the Shed, and almost immediately bought the rights to Song of the Sandman. But because they have this a completely different distribution model, they were ready to go very, very quickly. Like, they gave it to the same translator who did Song of the, God in the Shed. He turned it around very quickly. They got the cover done by their internal people. They turned that around very quickly. So they had everything set to go almost 6 months ago. Like, they were really on the ball. Then they had they had a bit of a Me Too crisis internally that got solved.
Oh no.
And they've been ready to send it out since for a while, but obviously they didn't want to send it out. They were looking to do something simultaneous or around the same time, or a little after the English version. But because, like I said, the distribution structure, it works differently. The way they put it in the catalogs, it ended up being mid-September, while while the English version was supposed to be mid-October and got pushed to 20th of October. So it's over a month later that the English one's going to hit.
And what day is that? I know people can pre-order now for
You can
the
pre-order
paperback.
now. The release for the physical version, the ebook version, and the audiobook version is going to be on October 20th. So just a little bit before Halloween, which is kind of nice.
That is excellent. How much? I don't want to spoil anything for people out there, but it's the same characters. I saw a review of it that gave me that much hint. How far, time-wise, is it from God in the Shed for those of us who have read that?
So the story picks up about 2 months after the end of A God in the Shed. The surviving characters kind of all have their separate arcs. Some of them went different ways because at the end of A God in the Shed, they're sort of split up to a certain degree, and they all have sort of their own agenda that's been dictated by the events of the first book. A lot of the action happens actually in Montreal, so it's a little less rural, a little bit more urban as far as the story goes, and it really delves into that next layer of the past of not the past, but the parents and grandparents of the main characters. Where does all the cults and all this myth come from?
Oh, okay, so more origin stuff where it was sorting to lead with the Black Carnival situation.
Yes.
If I'm remembering, yeah. Some of it reminded me when I watched Stranger Things. It reminded me of God in the Shed, as for like putting myself in that YA. And I meant to ask, did you intend it to be YA, or just that was a good bunch of protagonists to grab onto?
It's so the story of how I came to A God in the Shed. I actually wrote A God in the Shed before I wrote The Life Engineered. And my original idea, like the way I wanted to write A God in the Shed, is I wanted to do a Lovecraft version of the Adventures of Tom Sawyer, which you'll notice is not the same as A God in the Shed. But the thing is, when I started researching and deciding, okay, how am I going to do like this weird cosmic horror historical fiction that is both in a historical time that I am not super familiar with and in a geographic location that I am even less familiar with. Like there were so many like hurdles to creating this project that I wanted in my heart to do, but my mind wasn't sort of like at the same place. So I removed the historical element, and I removed the moving it geographically. I said I'm going to write it somewhere that I'm very comfortable with, which is the eastern township of Quebec. Like, so basically trying to remove as many of the hurdles and keeping the core of who these characters are going to be, what the story is going to be, like the idea of this the mythology of these ancient gods, how the magic and weirdness happens. So I want to keep a lot of the core elements and get rid of anything that was going to get in my way. And after writing it and rewriting it and revising it, it mutated so far away from its original core that I ended up with this contemporary story. But one thing that did remain is if Tom Sawyer is, I guess, Mississippi core YA. I mean, it is about like it is coming of age story about young adults. So there you go. That core also remained in A God in the Shed. I thought I had drifted sufficiently away from that, but when the book came out, I got a very positive review from Voice of Young Adult magazine, and that's where I kind of learned, oh, well, it is YA or YA friendly. And then I got invited to a YA festival here in Montreal as a guest author. So I started researching what YA was, and it's a lot less Harry Potter and a lot more actually what I did right. Like YA horror is a lot more visceral than, yeah, like Amy's saying, like it's YA but with cat skinning.
Well, it certainly gives like the best YA horror. It gives the kids real personalities and presence. Like you, I mean, you didn't even do it on purpose. You weren't pandering to an audience, but you gave life to kids that age and what it's like to think that way and not do the right thing, because who would, call the police if you have a god in your shed? Or a creepy beast that's weaving stuff with parts of viscera, Why tell anybody?
Everybody needs a hobby. I try not to judge anybody's art. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, it was intentional, but also not intentional. Like, it's a very strange way of getting to this YA thing. And yeah, Song of the Sandman, because knowing now what the book is, knowing who the audience is, I'm leaning into it, but also trying to not. Like, it's not because, oh, this is YA, I should sugarcoat everything a lot more. No, I'm trying to stick to the same list of ingredients to cook this new and fresh meal. Well, I'm doing food analogies. It's like Aquilo all over again.
You don't have to do that. I love that about your writing, though. I wanted to tell you, I think you're an excellent writer. And the way you describe things really pulls someone into a story. Textures, smells, songs in the background, in one story, or in Aquilo, that you constantly use metaphors and analogies and things that are, or just a word that is more often used in a culinary way to describe something. So it's coming from, the main character's head, or not. I giggle constantly listening, even though it's cozy horror. And for those of you out there who have not listened to the Aquilo podcast, it's another thing JF has written that Daniela Amy Frost narrates that is fantastic. I am waiting for every episode. This is on its 4th season now, and cozy horror is the early coin term. We had Amy and JF on at the launch of that show all that time ago, and I have an Aquilo apron, and whenever I'm trying something, I have 3 aprons. I have one for grilling and smoking. I have one that's like a cute little French maid one, and then I have an Aquilo one. And when I'm taking on like a new challenge and inventing something, I'm doing magic, so I put on my Aquilo apron.
Oh, Miriam would love that. That's what you're doing with the apron.
Oh, and I got a new spoon. So
it's funny because like the whole like culinary analogy thing. Like recently, like I was saying, I wrote a pitch for a project that I cannot talk about. But one of the things I had to switch was from doing food analogies to doing water and poison analogies. It's so interesting.
eek.
Interesting.
Do you worry about that? Because like I love it, but I wonder if some people don't. Like, is it too dad jokey? Like, do you stop yourself when you're at it and go, all right, that's too far?
It really depends. Like Aquilo's fun because it allows it allows for a little sprinkling of campiness to it, and part of what I try to do with Aquilo as I write it also is try to get a rise out of Amy, just because as the narrator I want her to feel invested and amused. Like the more she thinks the story is fun, the better like her narration is gonna be. And the same way she probably feels like the better narration is, the more I'll be inspired to write. So it's like trying to create this other feedback loop of creativity. But the reason for the food analogies and all that is not just to be campy. It's also to illustrate the way the character perceives the world. Miriam Dufour is a cook and a witch, but much more a cook. Like she's a baker, she's a chef, and everything she sees the world through will be seen through this filter of what her specialty and passions are. So when I say I moved to waters and toxic substances for this new project, is because the characters I'm describing see the world through those filters. So it's kind of it's a shorthand trick to giving more to anchoring a character's personality to the world around them, and building this sort of filter so that you can put that filter in front of the reader's eyes so they can see through the same point of view as the main characters.
Well, you're definitely nailing it. Because as a kitchen witch, I can tell you, I think that in those terms sometimes. Just like
I
sometimes
took a
you're
class
something
on
like,
kitchen witchery for this.
nice.
I don't have my certificate yet. Like I am a few classes from finishing, and I'm very lazy, and it's an online course by absolutely not reputable school at all.
Oh.
but it's a lot of fun. Like the information is still very useful from a writer's perspective. But yeah, no, it was important to me to actually capture the spirit of what I'm doing here.
I didn't know that existed. Gosh, I could teach one of those.
Probably.
But yeah, I think about things that way. Like as a gamer, sometimes you're approaching something that's like, oh man, you rolled terrible on that. You know, when something happens, or when I'm creating something or talking about something, I'll pull in. It's like a recipe, and you do this and then this and this instructions, and then for me that's ritual. When I try to describe what ritual is to someone, I use like, oh well, it's like a recipe, and you have to know everything that's coming and read through the whole thing first, or something bad's gonna happen. You have to
Prepare all your ingredients in advance, otherwise you don't want to be chopping onions when you need them immediately.
Yeah, you don't want to be halfway through something and you're missing an ingredient. That can just, especially with baking, then the chemistry, then you're just screwed. But I also really enjoyed the hockey reference in the most recent episodes. I was like, I love the way you phrased that kind of stuff too, about how Miriam was surprised she was watching hockey and why and how, and because I'm a hockey fan, I'm from up north, so it's very much that Canadian stuff where people don't. And you didn't even say ice hockey, which is near and dear to my heart because
I'm
now I live in
Canadian.
the South and they all call it ice hockey, and I'm like, what the fuck
Like,
other kind of hockey?
what other hockey exactly?
Like,
Field hockey, roller hockey.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the thing, dude. Those are the variants. Hockey is the one played on ice. Everything else you need to add the suffix because those are the variants.
correct.
That's the same. Like you don't say butter croissant, you say croissant, and then chocolate croissant or almond croissant or cheese croissant. Like the suffix is to describe the variants.
I
Same for
agree
Loki.
wholeheartedly.
Like you say Loki, and then if you have a gator Loki, see, I can be a nerd too.
Yes. Actually, my husband's 3D printing a Loki headpiece.
Nice.
He's working on a variant costume.
Resin or filament?
Filament.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for costumes, those are probably better.
Yeah. He was trying to print me a bias tape maker, and that didn't go very well. But
Aw.
but he did make me cool. He made my son one of these dice towers the other day for his new D&D club. I think 3D printing is magic. Like, this is a working hinge and it was printed in one piece, and that's not even how that works.
That's so cool.
So I guess, Jeff, I mean, it's going to be a long time for the third one.
Well, I don't know how long. Like, the funny thing is, Brechel and the French company, almost immediately when they gave me the final date for the launch of the second book, and they asked, "Can we buy the rights to the third one yet?" I'm like, "Well, no," because I don't have a publishing contract for the third one yet. Truth be told, I don't think it's because my current publisher doesn't want to give me a contract. I think it's because they're very busy with a bunch of NDA stuff I can't talk about. That is taking up a lot of their time, and I think they just assume that they'll be publishing the third one. So, but I haven't written it yet. So it might be very quick. They might, like the publisher might come back in a month and say, all right, well, get on it because we want it in 6 months because we want to publish it in a year. Or they may want to stretch that out to a year and a half or 2 years. I don't know. I have a ton of notes already about, like, I already know what I want to do with the third one. I just need to go through all the notes I have for it. I want to reread the 2 first books and just annotate them correctly. Like I said, I'm tremendously paranoid about not doing a good job with the third book, because this is also me saying goodbye to all these characters in this world and all that, and I want to do it as right as possible. So when I say it might take a while, it might just it's a warning of possibly me getting in my own way.
Well, because I'm still waiting for the sequel to Life Engineered, because the Life Engineered, to me, like, that is another one where I wasn't sure with God in the Shed. You wrapped it nicely. And I was going to ask you, actually, if Song of the Sandman is also self-contained. Do people need to read God in the Shed first?
It's, again, I have a weird answer for this one because I wrote it as a sequel. So in my mind, I wrote it that, yes, you kind of needed to have read the first book. And one of the first reviews I got from an early reviewer was that they had read it without reading the first one and they thought it was fine. And I even got in contact with him and says, "Are you sure?" It says, "Yeah, no, I thought, like, there's a couple of things that you feel that you're not in the loop quite, but like the story itself kind of follows and holds up." I'm like, all right, well, if you say so, you're the reviewer. So yeah, I would encourage anybody that wants to read Song of the Sandman to grab a God in the Shed first, because I wholly believe that their reviewer, bless their soul, are wrong. But on the other hand, someone seems to think that I'm wrong for thinking that the first book is required reading.
Well, it's certainly interesting to hear your point of view, because that's something I always wonder when I read books. Like, how hard was it to make sure it was self-contained? I know some authors think a lot about that and some not at all. and sometimes it's obvious and sometimes it's not, but you apparently pulled it off.
Well, the if you want to look at it in a how the sausage is made kind of way, like every character has four arcs. Well, not everyone, not everyone makes it. It's horror. Um, but basically, every character has an arc for the book, and every character has an arc for the trilogy. So any character that would make it through all three books would have one arc per book and one arc for the entire trilogy, sort of as a three-act structure, if you will. So because all these characters do complete their book arc at the end, in by that last chapter, it does feel complete to a point, but there is enough left of them not having completed their trilogy arc that there are unanswered questions. So it's one of the things that we didn't do right when we published the first book, and I'm not sure we are doing it right in the second book, is that we're not really announcing that it's all part of a trilogy. And I know a lot of my negative reviews is exactly that. Like oh, this feels like there should be another book. It's like, because there should be, but we're not. We were dumb and didn't tell you.
Yeah, when you first started mentioning it, I didn't realize it was a sequel or the second in a series. My husband actually pointed it out to me, and I was like, "Really?" And then I went and looked. I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess it is the second one to that," which is good to know because then I'm in familiar territory. I'd have read it anyway. Like I was saying about the Life Engineered, I got to the end of that one, and it was just, I want the next one. I want the next one.
It's Life Engineered is so frustrating because I am maybe three chapters from having written the entire second book. I'm on a second draft of it. I know I have the possibility, once it's done, I can get it edited and my publisher will publish it for me. I even have approval from the Sword and Laser collection to put it under Sword and Laser collection again, just so it has this verisimilitude. So everything is sort of in place for it. But because of the amount of work I've had to do for Song of the Sandman, the amount of work I'm doing for Aquilo, the fact that I have a full-time job, uh, I've lost. It's been so long since I've touched that sequel that if I were to go back, I feel like I need to rewrite it almost from scratch. So it's not that I'm never going to do it. I will do it. I'm hoping to go back to it at the beginning of 2022, so I can have it done by the end of 2022, like maybe get a 2023 release. But the biggest problem is I've evolved so much as a writer since then that I know that when I go back, I am going to want to fix a million things in that sequel.
Well, I'd love to be editing it because I am so looking forward to it. I really, really enjoyed the first one a lot.
Oh,
and
and
I was
I
amazed and
love-
happily amazed to write that you write things so disparate, to like horror and then sci-fi, and to me like nailing them both. Your brain is very intriguing. I don't know how you keep all that.
It is in
there.
constant pain. No, I don't know. I just like writing stories, and this is stuff that's been bubbling up in me for a long time. Like I hang with other writers here in Montreal, and I have a few of them that are, like they look at how far I am. There's oh, I wish I was there too. It's like you are all a decade younger than I am. I started this a long time ago. You could start the journey I'm on right now. You could start it today, and you would still get to where I am 10 years younger than I am. So, like, it's the reason I have all these stories is I've been wanting to tell stories since I was a child. I've never been able to find the medium that made me comfortable. I tried doing comics. I tried doing web comics. I've tried everything, and it's only very comparatively recently that I found this one place. Like A God in the Shed was initially, I have 5 pages of a web comic penned and colored on my hard drive somewhere. This was supposed to be a web comic, and it just so much work. And I did a web comic for a year. I did like 1 page a week for 52 weeks, and it was just the quality of the art just kept dropping and dropping because of how demanding it is to do this full time on my own. Like, I don't know how actual web comic artists who have full time jobs do it. It's just so much.
Wow. Yeah, that does sound like a lot. I used to write when I was in high school, and I just kind of dropped it when real life took over and never got back into writing. And I'm glad you stick with it and do get this stuff out to us. Are there
It
other
helps that
unfinished
it's.
projects that are going to see the light someday?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have any other like unfinished things close to your heart that you really want to find time for?
I have this. I have this one manuscript that I've been yearning to go back and finish rewriting so I can submit it to agents and publishers, which is the perfected version of what A God in the Shed was initially supposed to be. So it is that historical cosmic horror story that I wanted to tell. I've written it. I've beta readers who read it have so far loved it. I adore it. I love the characters. I love the potential of that world and how many books I could write in that little universe. So that's one. Obviously, like I'd love to write. That's true. Amy actually read it. That manuscript it's called Merrimack Girls, and it's she read it and narrated it over a period of several weeks, 12 weeks on her Twitch channel, just so I could
I think
have.
I
And
heard
I would
one
just
small segment of that.
just one chapter a week, and all the while I was listening, taking notes, and that's going to be a real help for me when I actually finish the editing of that, which actually I should be doing this December if all goes to plan. So that's my big other thing, and I've got two other projects that are kind of under NDA that I can't really, like, one of them is the pitch I was talking about. The other thing is, well, I can say as much as very, very early on when Gone the Shed first got published, it was optioned for television, and although that has gone nowhere so far, it's still something that's kind of ongoing and periodically demanding of me. So once in a while, someone will pop up and say, "JF, can you do XYZ for us?" And I have to sit down and actually do work. It's all been very exciting, very like it's been a learning experience for me. But also I can't talk about it a lot. So there's literally probably a year's worth of writing that I just can't say anything. Like I've absolutely written stuff.
That's really exciting. I think it's
Awesome.
exciting. And you said the
It's
publishing company gave you the cover for Song of the Sandman. Is that how that normally works, or do you have graphic designers that you work with or do you do any of it for your projects?
most publishers give absolutely no creative control for cover design to writers, especially small writers. Like I'm sure if a Neil Gaiman or a Stephen King, if they want to put their foot down, they can. Um, to be fair, they'd be stupid too because they're not professional designers. And I'm pretty sure that most of them just like they do what I do is just approve or like say yay nay, maybe like say a couple things here and there, but yeah, usually cover design, unless you're self-publishing, is the publisher's job. They're the one putting the money into it. They're the ones who know the industry. They're the ones who have a catalog of cover designers, professional cover designers that have experience doing it. So like it's funny because I know a lot of fledgling writers, a lot of them that were on the same publisher as I am, who really wanted to get super involved in their cover design, and none of them are professional designers. I'm a professional designer, and when the publisher says, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, "I want you guys to hire an expert." That's not me. Because I understand that like it's not because you have ideas and like this is not the place to say I may not know art but I know what I like. Like no, you need people who know art, who know how readers react, what readers like, what's the fashion these days. and who can play in that sphere with all that knowledge and those skills that you as a writer do not have and should not try to pretend that you have just because you have an image of what you want. So yeah, they take care of it, and I'm glad for it. The only difference is, for the Life Engineered, I pushed an artist on them because he's someone I know. He's someone who read the book. He's someone who likes and understands the characters, and he is a professional cover designer. So when I commissioned the art for the cover for Life Engineered, I knew exactly what I was dealing with, and I knew I wasn't just putting this in the hands of someone to fit my fancy. I knew this would still be done professionally.
And you get approval at least of it. So
I mean, you always have approval. They still ask you like, "Is this good?" But not to the point where you can say like, "No, change, start from scratch." You're not an artistic director as a writer, and nor should you be.
that's understandable. Hold on, my Discord did something stupid. There we go.
Not Discord. Could be worse. Could be Skype.
Ooh,
Yeah,
no.
it my computer detected a new audio device. I don't know how. Like my AirPods are in my freaking ears. Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to tell people about? We've talked about upcoming projects. You probably want to mention the dates again for the releases of Song of the Sandman and what's going on with Ake Willow. And for our listeners, I will put in our show notes links to pre-purchase the book, of course, and to Ake Willow and the like.
So yeah, no, I don't have much more to say. Just if you're listen, if whether you're a horror fan or not, if you want a quirky story that's a little bit creepy, a little bit dark, but still a lot of people I know who don't like horror manage to enjoy, and hopefully not just because it's me. Check out A God in the Shed and check out Song of the Sandman. If you've already read A God in the Shed, pre-order Song of the Sandman. Don't worry from where, just get it from where you're comfortable. I don't see more or less money wherever you get it. Like, I don't care, steal it for all I care. Otherwise, especially if you have read A God in the Shed and Song of Sandman and you like this kind of storytelling, check out Aquilo, the Aquilo podcast. You can find it on any podcatcher. It is a lot less creepy. It's a lot more cozy. The recent term I've heard for it is cottagecore horror. So you'll have that little small town vibe, very comfortable, not too high tension, and once in a while there's like a shot of horror to keep you on your toes. But otherwise, it's all about these characters in this really, really weird town of Aquilo. And there's cooking, a lot of cooking.
I'm hungry.
I'm always hungry. It's my secret.
So anyone else out there, please chime in. Let us know what you think. We'll pass it on. Email us at geekgrills@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at geekgrills. Now, what are you all looking up to or looking forward to this coming week? How about you, Ray? We'll start with you.
I am going to beat that werewolf somehow, some way. And if I have to activate God mode in order to do it, because I'm playing on the PC and I can, I will. Also, our Aberrant game, we only got to do about an hour because one of our players had to go do a podcast. So we're going to pick that up on Tuesday, and I'm really excited because I'm loving the friction that I'm getting with one of the other players. I kind of made my character to be antagonistic with her, and this is just good fun, just watching those two characters finally get to meet and just be catty and make everybody else feel really uncomfortable. It's great.
Nice.
How about you, Ember?
Well, let's go with JF first. What are you looking forward to this week?
Okay.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's so it's so great for me to listen to Ray talk about her RPGs because they're all the RPGs I used to play years ago when I used to do the tabletop thing, and I really miss it too. So like, oh, vampire and werewolf, like the whole World of Darkness thing, and Aberrant's like, oh man, this used to be my jam. Those were exactly the games I used to play. I still have the books like in my bookshelf here.
You should
So
check out
it's
that
just
Bloodlines thing. That's actually a video game she's playing.
I don't have time for much video games.
I feel
Like
you.
one of my like one of the two things I try to play is Fall Guys and Balloon Tower Defense, and I barely have time for those. Otherwise, what I am looking forward to, I'm painting tiny little planes for a game called Aeronautica Imperialis, which is set in 40K universe. So I'm trying to get those painted in time for a game against my brother somewhere in mid-October. I also have a bunch of orcs on squigs, which is another 40K thing, but it's basically just sci-fi orcs riding on giant toothy monsters. And so I just finished painting a batch of those. I'm really looking forward to getting into the next one. And I am also painting a model called a Warlord Titan, which anybody that knows 40K will recognize as the single biggest, most expensive model that someone can get for Warhammer 40,000. And I'm not going to go into details as to why I'm painting it, but it is awesome. And also, I'm looking forward to jumping back and finishing writing the fourth season of Aquilo because I've listened to 3 episodes that Amy narrated so far. We've already have a third of the season gone, like written. I know where it's going. It's super exciting. It's an important season, and I am so eager to hear what people think of it. And so far, the feedback the interaction with the community has been higher than any season we've had so far, and I think it's just gonna ramp up as it goes because it's my favorite season for a reason. Like it's going somewhere, and I'm very excited.
Nice. Yeah, I love that Linda and I are both like, ooh, Aquilo. Like she put in our Discord in the planning channel, like, oh my god, I just caught up with Aquilo a couple of days ago. I was like, oh, isn't it good? We were totally fangirling. Do you do 40K, Ray, by the way?
I don't, but like I know Linda's husband does, and like one of Scott's best friends is also like super into it. Like he bought an airbrush just to like get better distribution of the paint. He was showing that off to me. He's like, "You're an artist. You'll appreciate it." I'm like, "It's so nice that you people like use the term artist like that," but I'm like. I just doodle, but thank you. Yes, and I appreciate it. And yes, color wheels are very important, and that. But that's about all I can help you with.
So much imposter syndrome in one show.
But it's really cool. Like I like seeing what they do. Like I said, I've got a couple other friends on, and their Instagram is just them painting their Warhammer minis. So
That's
it's pretty cool.
that's what my Instagram is like. Actually, I should use my Instagram more.
Yeah, because I'm like, dude, I like each and every one of them. Like I've yet to get into painting minis. But I remember I used to have like they had those figures at Michael's that were plain ceramic and you could paint them. And for like the longest time as a kid, those were like the gifts I gave out to everybody that I could. So I'm like, I imagine it's like that. It's just more detailed and finer.
It's like one of the weirdest social media interaction I have is with Robert Carlyle, the writer of Sinister and Doctor Strange, who although we're both writers, he of a much higher caliber than I am. He will not talk to me about writing, but he will chat with me about 40K any day.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, I'll be giving a lot of pottery gifts if this firing turns out. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm dropping off. They're not open until Thursday, but I'll be dropping off the piece I painted to be fired and hope it turns out. I am a little scared. It doesn't look like a kindergartner did it, but we'll see. What else? I have bias tape. Yay! Even though the print failed for the bias tape maker, I could go to the store now. So I have bias tape. I'm going to try to make some of those nifty tie-on pockets like Linda makes. I'm sure it'll take me many attempts before they're anywhere near as good as hers. Maybe by the time we go to Ren Fair. The other thing is I have a bunch of pork marinated and am grinding it after the show, and then tomorrow I think, because I want to watch some videos of people stuffing. I've never cased sausage before, but I've got the casings and I've got my Papa's kielbasa recipe all marinated up. So I'm going to be making kielbasa, and I think I want to get cherry to smoke the kielbasa, and I'm really excited about that. This is a brand new process for me to make something that I can't get good kielbasa in the South. So I just have to make it, kind of like with bread. None of the bread. You guys have bread, sometimes two kinds with every meal, and none of it has crust. It's crazy.
Wait, good kielbasa. Is there we have a Polish festival. It's literally a fundraiser for a local Polish Catholic church, and they
Okay.
do like homemade like kielbasa and pierogies and all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm just
pierogi's another
saying,
thing I
just
had
consider
to
yourself
learn.
if you can find something like that.
Yeah, the area of North Carolina I live in doesn't have very strong little immigrant
Ethnic.
communities from those parts of the country like I am used to from Buffalo, where it's populated by like Germans and Irish and Italian and waves, and you have all those neighborhoods and you can reliably get all these products and the Broadway market and stuff. We don't have things like that here. Charlotte doesn't even have those things. But if you're going to that festival, I'll drive down. But we'll see how mine turns out too.
Yeah, I would say I have to see when it is. I didn't see any ads for it last year because pandemic. So, but next time I see the ads for the Pierogi Festival, I will let you know. It's in Lawrenceville and it is fantastic.
Because I love making pierogies now that I got that recipe from family friends back home. But it's a lot of work. Not like the kielbasa's not a lot of work, but at least I had Papa's recipe. I added more garlic. I'm sure I want more garlic.
Like
Remember,
you could
folks,
have
you can
too
always
much
come watch us
garlic.
record live.
Pierogies.
Is it like you could have too much garlic?
No such thing.
That's not a thing.
Well, I know that like Redlinski is one of my favorite sausages back home, and they have a specific holiday sausage that they make at Easter and Christmas, and it definitely just has more garlic, so it's a start with recipe tweaking, because you can't just make anything according to recipe right away. Remember, folks, you can always come watch us record live at twitch.tv/geekgrills on most Monday evenings. And I didn't write the date of our next one. Next week will be our production meeting. So the next live episode will be on October 11th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll let you know what we're talking about on social media a day or two before.
And in addition to the subs and bits that we get on Twitch, we are supported by our amazing patrons. You are the greatest girlfriends on the internet, and you can become a patron at www.patreon.com/girls. And if you have Amazon Prime, don't forget you can sub us for free every month on Twitch.
Another way to show your support is by leaving us a review. Please do that. You can do it on any of your podcast catchers. If you have Apple, that's great. It really helps other people find us. And you can check out what topics we're going to do in the next month on our schedule on Twitch below. I'll put it in after our next production meeting. We'll put in the schedule for all of next month's shows, and you'll be able to see what's coming. If you're a patron, please write and suggest a topic. We'd love to hear your ideas. So where can we find you all on the interwebs? Ray?
All right. You can find me on Instagram under Dapple Dame and on Twitch as Ray Ino. The last thing on there is my my second playthrough of Bloodlines with the Malkavian instead of my murder hobo gang roll that I'm trying to finish the game before I go back to streaming with the Malkavian.
And you can find Linda on Twitch and Instagram under madcap_misk. Please check out her website at madcapm.com. She has really terrific crochet products on there. I can be reached at 9 of 12 on Twitter and Twitch, and you can hear me on the Heresy and Heresy podcast. We will be starting up again in October. Where can people find you, JF?
They can find me on Twitter at J-F Dubeau, or they can just go to jfdubeau.com, which is the website, and you'll find links to all my socials there, as well as any book news that I have. I should probably update that with the release I'm having right now.
I feel your pain. You can definitely do that. And I'll put all the links to all of us in our show notes as always. Thanks for listening, everyone, and good game.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Ta-da! We did a show. Yeah,
Thank
Jeff,
you so much
can
for
you
having
give
me.
me the
It was
link
fun.
for that Warhammer podcast?
Yes. Wait, do we have a link?
There must be a link somewhere.
Let me look what I can find. I'm sure Amy's gonna beat me to it anyway. Because the thing is, like, it's one of those things that you
Who's good
can
at
find on
this?
any podcatcher by just looking for. Yeah, that should
Yeah.
probably do it.
Belows in the notes here.
Oh, I see. She just tried to put a link and she wasn't able to.
Oh.
Oh.
Let me.
I knew she was gonna beat me to it.
Oh, and it timed her out. Here.
I'll just add it to the show notes at the very end.
Okay.
There.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's actually really neat. So my friend Ari that I was talking about, who was like showing off his airbrush to me, like apparently Warhammer has become like a bonding with his stepsons now. So like his stepsons are into it now, and they're like, "Oh, we gotta come over so we can work out some things, so we can paint together." It's so cute. I love it, and they're grown. They've moved out of the house, but now they come back just to paint together, and it's awesome.
It's that's the thing. Like, as much as it's kind of like reviled as this very nerdy thing, it is such a great hobby because it's so multifaceted. Like, you've got the painting aspect, you can build some terrain, so doing dioramas and stuff. Then there's the whole playing games. Like, there's so much of it. Like, to me, it's a very meditative thing where I just paint on my lonesome, but sometimes I'll stream with someone and then I'll go play at the store with other people. So there's the community thing. It's so much, and it's so great to be able to use it both as a social outlet and as a personal thing. It's all consuming though.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons I've kind of avoided it. But it's like I did the same thing with Magic too, because for a while it seemed like in the late 90s, early 2000s, like everybody everywhere was Magic. Magic is kind of like it was just the game. There wasn't really that much more of a creative component to it, aside from like making your decks and playing with other people. And I was just like, I'm gonna sidestep this with my nerddom.
Right on.
Yeah, no, I think if I were, like, I'm not trying to disparage Magic or TCGs, but like, I would say that miniature collecting and miniature war games are probably a little bit better because of the whole artistic component, and I'm biased towards art.
Yeah, no, I'm like that is the more intriguing aspect. Is like, if I want to get into miniature painting, I know who to talk to now. Like, I know where to start.
Oh yeah, like, it's not for everyone because not everyone necessarily has the patience to do the painting. Not everybody likes the type of games these are, but like I said, it covers a lot of ground, so it's a lot of fun. It's one of those things, like, unlike Magic, like you'll get a huge collection of Magic cards, and well, they're just a huge collection of cards. Meanwhile, like I've got like curios here with some of my painted figs, and like can have conversations about like painting techniques and gaming and the whole fluff that I was talking to Amy the other day about how Black Library, which is just a fiction publishing arm of Games Workshop, couldn't almost be a genre on its own. They publish so much in so many different genres for their different universes. You could read just Black Library books and easily fill your year.
It's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm gonna-
it's immense IP.
I'm gonna raid Alex Elbisu, and because he could sure use it.
Oh,
And then-
I still have anime models I still need to paint and put together that I just never have. So miniatures is far, far away before I get to it.
wow.
Ooh.
Rob wants. I know he wants to get into painting minis, but we're kind of like, no, 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 no. Don't need more hobbies. We have so much crap.
It's also like, to be honest, it does have a barrier to entry that like you can't just buy a model and be done, because you need to buy glue, you need to buy paintbrushes, you need to buy paint. Like it's like it is a whole thing to get into the first time.
Well, we did that with painting in general. When Bob Ross streams started going like 24 hours again because the pandemic started, I was watching it to like for my Zen space, and I guess Rob just got exposed to so much of that we both really felt like we could actually paint and got all the stuff. It's like, this is a lot of money we're not spending going out. And we got easels and canvases and paints and brushes and all. I have palette knives. I haven't used those yet, but now we have stuff on our mantle and stuff on the walls. Presents for people, dropping them at their house.
That's good. Like I haven't touched my easel and paint in a while, and I've been actually it's one of the things I keep talking about, how I should go back to that, but time. It's so frustrating being an essential worker during the pandemic. Is everybody around me had so much time to do things. I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
Yeah, Rob was essential, but got to work from home. And he
that's
used to
good.
go in a couple times a week at least. So that's several hours a week at least he got. Like I
Yeah,
wear
you
a
like
Sandman
working
shirt.
from home.
It's not the right Sandman, but it says Sandman on it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how good of a coincidence is that my book is coming out just as the Sandman television series is getting like all their trailers and stuff.
Oof. Yeah.
Should
That's
I
not going to
be?
be out until like next year, though, I think.
I
is
can't
what
remember what
it's-
the dates
well,
are.
it doesn't even have a date yet at all.
True.
Yeah,
But we're seeing footage, so
Yes.
probably not that far in the future.
All that
All
stuff
right.
takes a
That
long
being
time,
said,
right?
I need to go walk to get my steps in for the day.
All right.
That's
Thank you
very
so much.
important.
This was fun.
It was.